All right, let's get started. This is section 3.1, Isosceles and Equilateral Triangles. This is Mr. Trutna, and what we're going to do is we are going to cover numbers 1 to 13. Okay, so what we're doing is we're applying our knowledge, as you can see, the instructions say, of the sides and angles of isosceles triangles. All right, so in numbers 1, 2, and 3, we're going to find each missing angle. In number 1, you should notice right away that you are given a triangle that has two equal sides. So by definition, any triangle that has two equal sides, that is what we call an isosceles triangle. Okay, and like we talked about in class, is that if a triangle has two equal sides, that the two equal sides are called the legs, and then the two angles and the third side that is not equal is called the base. And then the two angles that run along the base are called the base angles, and those are equal. So that means that that angle and that angle have to be equal to each other. So if angle L is 60 degrees, the measure of angle J also has to be 68 degrees. So this angle right here where the J is going to have to be 68 degrees. And then once we know two angles of a triangle, to find the third missing angle, which would be angle K, all we have to do is we just have to add up the two angles that we already have. So 68 and 68 adds up to 136, and then we use the triangle angle sum theorem, which says the three angles of a triangle add up to 180, and then we subtract 136 from 180, so that's going to give me 44 degrees. So there's how you would do number 1. Moving on to number 2, you notice once again that we have a triangle and two sides are equal to each other, as indicated by these tick marks. Okay, so that means, if you recall, the two sides that are congruent are called the legs. The third side that is not a leg is called the base. And then the angles that run along the base are equal to each other. They're called the base angles. So that means angle C and angle E are going to be congruent to one another. Okay, and notice in number 2 we have to find the measure of angle C and the measure of angle E. So here's how we do it. We know that the three angles add up to 180. So that means if I took 106, which is what I already have, and I subtract it from 180, that leaves 74 degrees for these two angles. Well, they're both equal, so to find them, I'm going to take that 74 and I'm going to divide it by 2. And that would give me 37. So that means the measure of angle C is 37, the measure of angle E is also 37. Moving on to number 3. So notice in number 3 we want to find the length of y to z, and we want to find the measure of angle y. Well, let's find the measure of angle y first, because we know two of the angles in this triangle are 77. So to find the third angle, angle y, all we got to do is we just add up 77 and 77. That would be 154. And then we use the triangle angle sum theorem, which says the three angles of a triangle add up to 180. We subtract the 154 from it to find the missing angle, so that would be 26 degrees. So angle Y is going to be 26 degrees, and I'll write a 26 in right there. Okay, now, if you notice, these two angles here, the 77 and the 77, they're congruent. So those angles would be considered the base angles, which makes this side the base, which makes the other two sides legs, okay? So if you have two angles that are equal, those are called base angles. They're always going to be connected to the base, so this is an isosceles triangle. The legs are the two congruent sides, so y to z is going to have to be 12 in number 3. All right, number 4, you want to find the value. The instructions say find the value of each variable. So what you're doing is, you notice right away in number 4 we have two equal sides. So remember, the two congruent sides in a triangle are called the legs. The third side that's not congruent is called the base. So that means the two angles here and here that run along the base are called the base angles, and they're equal. So that means that the 5x plus 9 angle is going to be equal to the angle that's represented by 8x minus 30. So that would be, in order to find the variable, that is the equation that I would generate to solve this equation. So I would take away, and then I would just solve it out. I would take away 5x's from both sides of the equation. The 5x's would cancel. My new equation would be 9 is equal to 3x minus 30. Then you would want to add 30 to both sides of the equation next. It'd probably be the best thing to do. The 30s would cancel each other out. Your new equation would be 39 is equal to 3x, and then you would use the inverse operation of 3 times x, which is dividing by 3. The 3's would cancel out, and we get x is equal to 13. Okay, let's make sure we answered the instructions. Find the value of each variable. There's only one variable here, it's x. We said it was 13. Moving on to number 5, you notice we have a triangle, and we have a triangle with 2 equal sides. So the 2 congruent sides are called the legs. The third side that is not congruent is called the base. And then the 2 angles, that angle and that angle, that run along the base are called the base angles, and they're congruent to each other. Okay, we're using what we call the Isosceles triangle theorem. Okay, so what does this say? Well, it says that this angle, represented by 9x minus 33, is going to be the same, or it's going to be equal to that angle, which is represented by the expression 4x plus 7. And then we're just going to use algebra in order to solve this equation to figure out the value of x. I would subtract 4x's from both sides, because this has less than that as far as the x's go. The 4x's would cancel out. 9x minus 4x is 5x. Bring down the minus 33. That's going to be equal to positive 7, and I could just write 7. Next step would be to add 33 to both sides to eliminate the 33 from the left-hand side of the equation. 33's would cancel. My new equation would be 5x is equal to 7 plus 33 is 40. And then I would use the inverse operation of 5 times x, which is dividing by 5. And in number 5, x is going to be equal to 8. Okay, number 6, excuse me. So in number 6, we have to think a little bit backwards here, because if you notice, the 2 angles are marked as equal. So those would be what are known as my base angles, which means that this side is my base, which means that these 2 sides, where the 15x plus 7 is, and where the 23x minus 17 is, would be the legs. Okay, so remember, the legs are the 2 congruent sides are called the legs. So that means that side is congruent to that side. So the 23x minus 17 side is going to be equal to the 15x plus 7 side. And we use that algebraic equation to solve for the variable, and the variable in number 6 is going to be x. Okay, so 15 is smaller than 23, so I'm going to subtract 15x's from both sides. That would cancel out the 15x's, and I would get a new equation. 23x minus 15x is 8x. Bring down the minus 17 is equal to positive 7, and I could just write 7. My next step would be to add 17 to both sides. Notice I'm always doing the opposite math operation. I'm minusing 17, so I add 17. And what that does is that eliminates those numbers. And now I get a new equation. 8x is equal to 7 plus 17. That's 24. Now I need to eliminate the 8 by using the opposite math operation. Well, this is 8 times x, so I divide by 8. That's opposite of multiplying by 8. That would cancel out the 8's. Number 6, x is equal to 3. Moving on to number 7. Now in number 7, you aren't given specific arc marks like number 6, so you're not given marks, but you are clearly shown that those 2 angles are equal to each other. Okay, so you can see in number 7, that angle and that angle have to be congruent. They have to be the same. They're both 74. So that makes those my base angles, which means that that side would be the base, which means that these 2 sides here, where the 3x plus 23 are, and the 9x minus 73 would be my legs. And remember, the legs are the 2 congruent sides. Okay, so that means that the 9x minus 73 side is going to be equal to the side that's represented by 3x plus 23. So that would be the correct equation in number 7 that you would have to use to generate in order to get the answer there. Okay? Alright, so now I'm going to solve. So if you notice, on the left side I got 9x's. On the right side of the equation I got 3x's. 3x is smaller than 9x, so I'm going to eliminate the 3x's by subtracting 3x's from both sides. When I do that, those 3x's cancel, and I get a new equation. 9x minus 3x is 6x. minus 73 is equal to positive 23. Just write 23. Now I need to eliminate the minus 73 by doing the opposite operation, which is adding 73 to both sides. That would cancel out those 73's and it would create a new equation, which would be 6x is equal to 96. And then I would divide both sides by 6. So x is going to be equal to 16 in number 7. Okay, hopefully that first page makes sense on how you go about solving those. Turning it over, we're moving on to number 8. Now number 8, 9, and 10, what you hopefully notice is, or you should notice, but it shouldn't freak you out. I'm going to zoom out just a bit so you can see it. There's no picture. So what you want to do is you want to draw the picture in number 8, and then you want to fill in all the information to help you solve out the equation. So we have a triangle RST. So I'm just going to draw a triangle. It didn't specifically tell me what kind of triangle it is, so I'm just going to make it look like that. I'm going to put, I can put the R, the S, and the T anywhere I want in any corner. Okay, and then I'm going to make marks. So we know that side R to T is congruent to side S to T. So R to T is congruent to S to T. I'm going to make those tick marks to show that. Okay, I'm going to put a check there. The measure of angle R is equal to 9x plus 2. So inside R, I'm going to write 9x plus 2. Whenever you're told an angle, you always want to write it inside the picture. I'm going to put a check there. I'm putting checks on every time I denote what the information gives me. The measure of angle S is 13x minus 18. So angle S is 13x minus 18. Okay, I'm going to put a check mark there. And the measure of angle T is 17x plus 1. So this angle is 17x plus 1. Okay, so this problem would be very difficult to do if you didn't draw a picture. So then the instructions say find x and the measure of each angle. So you can see we have to find x, then we're going to have to plug it in to find the measure of angle R, angle S, and angle T. Okay, so first of all, let's find x. Well, what do we notice? Well, we've got these two sides that are equal. So remember, the two congruent sides are called the legs. So this is an isosceles triangle, which means that this side is the base, which means that angle R and angle S are our base angles, and the base angles are always equal. So that means in order for me to solve for x, I'm going to take the 13x minus 18 angle, and it's equal to this angle right here, which is represented, angle R, which is represented by 9x plus 2. So that's the equation that I use to solve for x, okay? There's another way that I could have done it to solve for x, but this is the way that I'm going to do it. All right, and I'll show you the other way in a second, okay? So I'm going to subtract 9x's from each side. I'm just going to go about my business, and I'm going to solve for x in this problem. 13x minus 9x is 4x. Minus 18 is equal to positive 2. I'm going to add 18 to both sides. That would cancel out the 18s, and we would get 4x is equal to 20. And then we divide both sides by 4, so we get x is equal to 5. Okay, so that would be my answer for that. Now, to find the measure of angle R, angle R is represented by the expression 9 times x plus 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute 5 in the place of x. So angle R would become 9 times 5 plus 2. That would be equal to 47. So there's angle R, 47 degrees. Okay, 9 times 5 is 45. 45 plus 2 is 47. To find the measure of angle S is represented by the expression 13 times x minus 18. We're going to substitute 5 in the place of x, so we're going to get 13 times 5. That's 65. Then we're going to go 65, take away 18. So we're going to get the angle S to be 47 degrees. So angle S is going to be 47 degrees. And if I was really thinking, I knew that angle R and angle S were the same. So once I found angle R, I could have just answered angle S without doing the math. But I guess better safe than sorry, right? And then to find angle T, I could do angle T one of two ways. I could either substitute the 5 in the place of the x here, or I could just add up these two angles and subtract from 180. Okay, so let's do that. So to find angle T, I would go 47 plus 47. That's 94. And then the three angles in a triangle always add up to 180. So I could just go 180 minus 94. Whoops, hold on. The lights in the classroom just went out. There we go. I was walking around. No chimichanga being made today. Just the lights went out. All right. And then when I subtract that, I'm going to get 86. So that's how you would do the work to figure out angle T would be 86 degrees. Okay. Moving on to number 9. Same idea. So in number 9, if you notice, we have in triangle DEF. No picture. So the first thing you want to do in number 9 is just like number 8, you want to draw the triangle DEF. Alright, and then when you draw a triangle, it didn't specifically say what kind of triangle, so I'm just going to draw that triangle. And then I can put the D and the E and the F wherever I want, as long as they're in each one of the 3 vertices or the corners of the triangle. Now let's make marks. We know that if angle D is congruent to angle E, so let's mark angle D and angle E the same with those arcs. D to E is equal to x plus 4, so side D to E is x plus 4, so right next to the side, write x plus 4. Write it outside the triangle. Whenever you denote how long sides are, you write it outside the shape. I forgot to put checks there, check there. Side E to F is 4x minus 8, so E to F, I'm going to write 4x minus 8 along E to F on the outside. Put a check there. And side D to F is 7x minus 35. So this side right here is 7x minus 35. Okay, and then I'm going to put a check mark there. So then we're going to find x and the measure of each side. Okay, so you can see there. Okay, so how do I do this? Well, here we go. We got 2 angles that are the same. So those 2 angles, when a triangle has 2 equal angles, those angles are called the base angles. The base angles run along the base. So this x plus 4 side is the base, which means that the other 2 sides are what we call the legs. And remember, the legs are the 2 congruent sides. So that means that the 7x minus 35 side is going to be equal to the 4x minus 8 side. So that's the equation that I wanted to generate, and I'm going to use that to find the value of x. I'm going to subtract 4x's from both sides of the equation. Those would cancel out, the 4x's, and then my new equation, 3x minus 35, is equal to negative 8. Now you got to put the minus 8 there. It's a negative 8. You can't just write 8. Because if you just wrote 8, that would mean a positive 8. And that 8's not positive. It's a minus. It's a negative 8. Now I'm going to add 35 to both sides of the equation to eliminate the 35. And when I do that, these 35's cancel out, and my new equation will become 3x is equal to positive 27. Think of negative 8 plus 35 as 35 minus 8, which is 27. Then we divide both sides by 3, so we get x to be equal to 9. Okay, so there's I found the value of x, it is 9. Now, to find the sides, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my value of 9 and plug them in. Okay, so side D to E is equal to x plus 4. Substitute 9 in the place of x, so that means D to E is going to be 9 plus 4, 13. D to E is equal to 13. Okay, now, before I do any work, let's see. D to E is here. D to E was the base, so there's no other sides that are going to be the same as the base. So, okay, so I can't put 13 here or here. So next I'm going to find side E to F. So side E to F is represented by 4 times x minus 8. We said x was 9, so substitute a 9 in the place of x, so we get 4 times 9, that's 36. 36 minus 8 is 28. So E to F is going to be 28. Okay, so there's 28. And then I know that since E to F is a leg, it's going to be the same as the other leg, which is D to F, so I don't have to do any work. I know that D to F has to be the same as E to F, as you can see right here, they're the legs. And remember, the legs are always equal, so that would be 28 as well. Okay, number 10, same idea. In triangle WXY, I don't have a picture, so I'm going to first and foremost, I'm going to draw a picture here. I'll put the W as the top corner, the X over here at the bottom right, and the Y over here on the bottom left. Okay, then I'm going to mark. I know that if side W to X is congruent to side W to Y, so those 2 sides are congruent, I'll mark that with my tick mark. The measure of angle W is equal to x plus 6, so at W inside the shape, write x plus 6. Check. The measure of angle x, there's angle x, is 5x minus 12. So inside the triangle, right at x, write 5x minus 12. Check. And the measure of angle y is equal to 7x minus 48. So inside the triangle, to represent angle y, we'll put a 7x minus 48. Check. Find x and the measure of each angle. Okay, well, what we can do in this problem is, so once again, the two sides that are congruent in a triangle are called the legs. So that means that the third side is called the base. And then the two angles that connect the base are the base angles, and those two angles are equal. Okay, now, but I'm going to solve this equation. So what I could do is, if I wanted to, I could say 7x minus 48 is equal to 5x minus 12. But I don't know if you recall in number 8, I said there's another way to solve it. Here's another way that you could solve it. I know that the three angles, 7x minus 48, if I add it to 5x minus 12, and if I add that to the third angle, which is x plus 6, I know the three angles in a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. So if I wanted to, I could have created this rather long equation in order to help me solve for x, okay? Or, once again, if I wanted to, I could have just simply said that 7x minus 48 angle is equal to the 5x minus 12 angle. Either one of these equations is going to give me the same answer. Okay, but I'm not going to use that one this time. I'm going to solve for this one. So I'm going to combine the 7x with the positive 5x, that's positive 12x, with the positive x, that's 1x. So combining all those together, I get 13x. Then I'm going to combine the minus 48 with the minus 12, that gives me negative 60. And then I'm going to add 6 to that, so that gives me negative 54. So when I combine the like terms, I get 13x minus 54 equals 180. And then I solve this equation. I'm going to have to work with some bigger numbers, but if you have a calculator, it's not that intimidating. Even if you don't have a calculator, you might be able to do it. Those 54s would cancel out. 13x would be equal to 234. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 13, and that will ultimately get my answer for x. So x is going to be, holy cow, 18. Okay, I believe I did that right. Let's see, 1, and yeah, 18. So x is equal to 18. Okay, now I'm going to find the measure of angle w, excuse me. So angle w is represented by the expression x plus 6. We figured out that x was 18, so substitute 18 for x. We get angle w to be 18 plus 6, so that's 24 degrees. So there's angle w. Okay, now, is any angle the same as angle w? No. Angle w is the vertex angle. Alright, the base angles are equal. So now I'm going to find angle x, the measure of angle x. Angle x is represented by 5 times x minus 12. Substitute 18 for x, so that gives me 5 times 18, that's 90. 90 minus 12 is 78. So the measure of angle x is going to be 78, okay, degrees. Now angle y is the same as angle x because they're the base angles, so I don't have to plug it in. I just know that angle y is 78 degrees. So that's how you would do number 10. Okay, moving on, number 11. So in number 11, we're going to find the measure of each missing angle. And if you notice that angle A is 60, angle B is 60, so what would angle C be? Well, angle C would have to be, let's do the math, 60 plus 60 is 120. 180 subtracted from 120 is 60. So angle C also is 60 degrees. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means that all the angles are equal. Alright, that means that this is an equiangular triangle. Okay, so it says if the measure of angle A, so what we're saying is if a triangle has all the angles are equal, like number 11, then that means it has to be equilateral, which means all the sides are the same. So you guys, these two go hand in hand. If all the angles are equal, that's what equiangular means, then all the sides have to be equal, and that's what equilateral means. Okay, so in number 11, all the angles are the same, so that means all the sides are the same. So that means A to C is 9, and B to C is 9 as well. Okay, moving on to number 12. Notice in number 12, we have tick marks on every side. So that means in number 12, every side is the same. So all the sides are 24 centimeters. Okay, now this says find the measure of angle J, K, and L. Okay, well, if all the sides are the same, once again, going up here, that makes the triangle equilateral. All the sides are the same. But if it's equilateral, that means it's equiangular. That means all the angles are the same. So in number 12, all three of those angles have to be the same. Okay, so how do you find out how much one of them is? Well, all three of them add up to 180. And if they're all the same, we just simply divide by 3. 180 divided by 3 is 60. So that means angle J, measure of angle K, measure of angle L are all 60 degrees. Okay? Number 13, if triangle PQR, here's PQR triangle, is equilateral, then solve for X and solve for Y. Okay, well, equilateral means all the sides are the same. So that means the 14y minus 59 side is the same as the 9y plus 1 side, which is the same as the 11y minus 23 side. So what you could do is you could pick any two of these sides and make them equal to each other. I'm going to pick the 11y minus 23 side, and I'm going to make it equal to the 9y plus 1 side. Okay, I didn't have to do that. I could have said 11y minus 23 is equal to 14y minus 59. I could have said 14y minus 59 is equal to 9y plus 1. They're all equal to each other. How did I know that? It's equilateral. Okay, so I'm going to use this to solve for y. Subtract 9y from both sides. 9y's cancel. New equation is 2y minus 23 is equal to positive 1. You could just write 1 there. Add 23 to both sides. That cancels out to 23's. New equation is 2y is equal to 24. We divide both sides by 2. Y is equal to 12. Okay, so there's my answer for y. So I just solved for y, but now I need to solve for x. Okay, well, if you notice, x is right here in this expression where the 7x minus 3 is. Alright? So let's see. It's really not coming out that good as I'm talking to you here. Let me turn on the light, or off on the light, actually, on my overhead, see if that helps. Maybe a little bit. Okay, so this angle right here is 7x minus 3. Okay, but I don't know how big that angle is, and I don't know how big that angle is, okay, but I do. How many degrees would each angle have to be? Well, it's equilateral. So that means it's also equiangular. So just like in number 11, all the angles would have to be 60 degrees. Okay? Well, how did I get that? 180 divided by 3 is 60. So what I'm telling you is that anytime you have an equilateral triangle, not only are all the sides equal, but all the angles have to be equal, and the only measurement they could possibly be in a triangle would be 60, 60, and 60. So that means the 7x minus 3 angle is equal to 60 degrees. So there's your equation that you would use to solve for x. And then you solve it. Add 3 to both sides. The 3's would cancel out. 7x is equal to 63. Divide both sides by 7. X is equal to 9. There we go. A rather lengthy explanation to do 13 problems. Enjoy. Use it to your advantage.